I love great conversations. Hi, my name is Angel Jones. Thank you for joining me on 12-minute convos where I help you create a brand of your own unique, real self. Listen in as I have conversations with amazing people from all over the world. Good night, Aaron Rose. How are you going on this wonderful, beautiful night?
Well, it's not so wonderful and beautiful here in Chicago. It's quite cold and chilly in Chicago, but I'm doing very well.
You know, I was listening to a podcast in preparation for one I have in a bit, and the guy was speaking about the weather, and is the weather such a bad thing, or is it our perception of the weather? And he went on, and I thought this most intriguing. He said, hey, if you have warm clothes in cold weather, it's all good. What do you think about that?
Well, I agree totally. I'm from Toronto, Canada, so I'm used to the cold, but I understand that it's more important to dress warm than it is to look good. So dress in layers and be warm, because if you're freezing and you look good, it doesn't matter.
Makes sense. Well, Aaron, so you're in Chicago right now, and you're originally from Canada, right? Please do tell me, which of your talents is responsible for us connecting at this time in life?
So you reached out to me after I updated my profile. I started a podcast at Northwestern University. I do the Medill Sports Podcast, where I interview Northwestern alumni who are doing amazing things in the world of sports journalism. We talk about their careers and all sorts of stuff like that. So I guess we are both podcasters, and that's what brought us into contact.
Yeah. It's definitely the truth. I listened to your podcast, and interestingly enough, when I searched your name, I found you, and not the Medill podcast.
Yeah, I've done other podcasts. I did my undergraduate at McGill University. I like to keep it with the same sound. McGill and Medill.
That's what I got, yeah.
So I did some podcasts at McGill where I also interviewed some pretty cool sports journalists. And that's kind of what I like doing. I find that if you talk to athletes, they don't have much to say. They give you the same story over and over again. But if you talk to journalists, fellow journalists like we're doing now, they have a lot more to say. They speak for a living. Yeah. They have some great stories, and they're always willing to tell them.
Yeah. Well, I've definitely gotten that opportunity with podcasters who are really the behind the scene journalists, if you would, right? The raw journalists. Yeah, and I've really had some amazing stories shared via the podcast. It's definitely been fun. Who did you learn that skill from, though? That skill of interpretation of communication?
I think growing up in Toronto, I listened to the radio. I'm a sports fan who listens to the radio. Bob McCowan was a guy. He does primetime sports in Toronto, and he was really inspirational to me. I listen to all sorts of podcasts constantly. Anytime I'm going somewhere, walking down the street, I'm listening to a podcast. And talking to people is a skill that I need to develop, but it's a skill that is any interpersonal relationship. We all do it. We all have to talk to people. And I think asking great questions, but listening is so important. And these are skills I'm trying to develop, but things I think that are very important to making a good podcast and being a good person.
Yeah, I totally agree. If you do listen to my first episodes on my podcast, you will hear a voice that will probably surprise you. And it surprises me how people actually had a conversation. I can't even call it a conversation, right? So it sounded like this. Which of your talents is responsible for us meeting? Answer. Who did you learn that skill from? Answer. Why will you continue to repeat it? I felt as though I was angry, right? And I think having a conversation, my tip would be really going with the flow and
speaking slowly.
Yeah, well, speaking slowly is necessary when applicable. So I'm speaking to you and my accent may become confusing, yeah? So I need to speak a bit slower for you to understand every word that's coming from my mouth. But if we were Ontarian to Ontario, right? Ontarian, whatever, you Canadian to Canadian, you'd probably understand me a bit better, wouldn't you?
Yeah. But I think, as you said, talking slowly and listening to the answer so that you can ask a great follow-up question, and going off script is so important.
Yeah. Well, I'm all for the love of giving you as much information as I can. I would say one of the things I do with the follow-up questions is I do not look at the questions. I tend to turn away and fall directly into your answer and then ask my next question so that I'm fully engrossed in this conversation, as I am right now, right, with Aaron Rose.
Exactly.
So you've done this, and you listening to your podcast. Wow, you are a walking, talking sports machine.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Because you went up against your most previous guest on the other podcast, right? Which is the Medill podcast, right?
So
go ahead.
Yeah, most recently I have a podcast coming out tomorrow, Monday. November, what is it, the 13th,
right?
With Cassidy Hubbarth, who's an ESPN anchor.
Wow.
And she is absolutely fantastic. She is so cool. She has almost 90,000 followers on Twitter, and we talked about how to make yourself marketable and popular on Twitter. I, at Aaron Ben Rose, have like 90 followers on Twitter. So I'm trying to get where she is.
Yeah.
And we talked all about how to become a superstar on Twitter. And that conversation was very great. Yeah.
Sounds like fun. I definitely see you having more conversations like those. You definitely hold your space. That being said, where's the best place for people to connect with you, Aaron?
You can email me at Aaron Ben Rose if there are people that you know that you want to hear me interview, that are very cool, have great stories, have done amazing things in their career, or tweet at me at Aaron Ben Rose. I'm desperate for followers, but I think I have some great stuff. I'm trying to be funny, witty. I use GIFs, whatever you say. I look up memes. So I will appreciate and I follow back if you have some good stuff. So those are probably the best places to connect with me.
Sounds good. Tell me one other thing that you've done consistently over the last 3 years, please, Aaron.
I've been writing and talking and doing these podcasts, as we've talked about over the last 3 years. It might sound silly, but I've been growing. And I don't mean that physically, but I think it means as a person, I've been learning a lot. I've matured, contrary to belief of some other people. I've certainly grown as a person. If you would have said to me 3 years ago, hey, you'll be at Northwestern University studying at Medill, I think I would have said, you're crazy. But this was a dream of mine, a goal of mine. And I attained it because I've grown as a person, because I put in the hard work. So that's something I think I've done over the last 3 years. Grown as a person, matured, and kept that hard work ethic.
How does that make you feel?
Well, so proud. I remember the day I got into Medill. It was actually my mother's 50th birthday.
Wow.
And I called her and I said, hey, Mom, I just got into Northwestern. And she started crying and I was tearing up. I called my dad. I said, hey, I got in. That was a really incredible experience. And that was all the hard work I had put in over years at McGill to get to this moment, to say, hey, I have a chance to really make it in a very competitive journalism field.
Yeah. Good for you, my friend. Suggest to someone out there who's listening, someone maybe sharing that similar type passion for the career they want to go after, why they should even consider doing what you've done by being intentional with growing.
Well, I'll tell a very quick story. When I was in 10th grade, my professor handed me a sheet of paper that had 3 questions on it. What's your dream job? What do you want to do? And what will you do when you're older? And I answered that question. I said, the first thing I want to do is I dream to be an NFL quarterback, but I decided I'm 6 feet, I'm 170 something pounds, and I will probably never be an NFL quarterback. I've never taken a hit and I'm not very athletic. I said I would probably be a lawyer because it's an easy career to go into, to tell people you're doing it. It's not necessarily easy, but you can tell people, hey, I want to be a lawyer. You go to law school. If you can get in, you're smart. It's a career that people go into and they find varying degrees of success, but there is certainly success to be had. But I really wanted to be a sports journalist, and I have pursued that relentlessly, trying every avenue. Once I moved out of home to McGill in Montreal, I said, hey, I want to start writing for the newspaper. I want to start doing extracurricular activities, whether it's calling basketball games. I want an internship. I want to pick up the phone and I want to call people to make things happen. I'm going to the Olympics this year to cover the Olympics because I made phone calls, because I sent emails and made it happen. So I think putting yourself out there is so important to be successful in whatever you do. Pursue your dreams relentlessly.
Love it. Amazing audience, we are live with Aaron Rose again. He is the podcast host of the Medill Sports Podcast. You could definitely check that out. Definitely, if you are into sports, he is covering it and he does so very well. Aaron, let's switch gears for a moment now and let me invite you into my time machine that is surrounded with beautiful warm blue Caribbean water. Aaron, what is your earliest childhood memory?
I've been thinking about this for a while. And you know when you have a memory, but you're not sure if it's a memory or it's from a picture you've seen repeatedly or if it's from a movie that you saw. So I don't really know if this is a real memory, but it's the one that came to mind when I thought about this question. And the answer is I was at Disneyland with my family many, many, many years ago. And the Queen of Spades, I think it was, I was being pushed around in my stroller, and the Queen of Spades untied my shoelaces, and I was bawling my eyes out. I was devastated. I was being bullied by a fictional character, by a costume mascot. Now, I know that is a video I've seen repeatedly, so it might just be from the video that I remember it, but that's the earliest memory I think I have.
Wow. How old were you?
Oh, how old was I? I might have been 5 or 6 years old. I was pretty young, so young that I was devastated when a fictional character untied my shoelaces at Disney World.
That's intriguing. Why do you think it's so clear, this memory?
As I said, because I've seen the video before, but also because I guess I was traumatized. I think those are the memories we remember, pure joy and pure terror. I think for the longest, those moments are the most impactful in our lives. When something terrible happens and when something amazing happens.
Have you ever looked up what's the meaning of the Queen of Spades card?
I think it's from Alice in Wonderland, a movie I haven't seen.
Okay, all right. But have you ever just typed in what's the meaning of Queen of Spades, the Queen of Spades card?
No. Is it a curse word?
Oh no, it's the mother of a higher lifestyle card.
Okay, I didn't know that. I thought it's something else.
Yeah, well, I just looked it up right here, on Google. So I just put Queen of Spades meaning. I really don't know the meaning of cards, right? But Queen of Spades, the mother of higher lifestyle card.
If you play hearts, it's the card game Hearts. It's a card you don't want.
Right. So it's intriguing. It's intriguing that. So can I offer an interpretation to the thought picture you created in my mind?
Please do.
In life, there are individuals that will come to create a scenario that may seem devastating in your life, right? To untie your shoelaces, right? But as you said, hey, the character can be fictional, but at the same time, there are people just like that. So for me, again, what this represents is what can truly happen in life and how your awareness is necessary. Just your awareness is necessary so that an individual that you think may be meaning well could definitely be to your detriment. But overall, things work out, don't they?
I certainly survived the experience. Yeah. So
and you're here to speak of it.
I think that's an interesting interpretation. Yeah. To be weary of the people around you, but things will work out.
Yeah. Just be careful. You're good. You're definitely climbing pretty fast, right? So just be careful. All right, my friend, if we fast forward to when you were 12 years old, what was your favorite song?
12 years old, so that was a decade ago. I'd say I'm a classic rock fan. If it was a decade ago, I was probably into maybe the Rolling Stones. We'll say Paint It Black is the first song that came to mind. I've always been a classic rock fan, which dates me compared to my peers who are into hip hop and rap. I like the old guys. I think those guys are the greatest genre of music.
Yeah, which is super cool. You said Painted Black. I think about Queen of Spades again. I'm like, okay then, black again.
maybe we're picking up on a trend here.
We'll need to do more work. All right, Aaron, we've arrived at our destination. But before we get off of this time machine, there's a small declaration form. So it's yes or no, possibly a bit more. We're going to go pretty quickly here. Are you ready, Aaron?
Yes, sir.
Aaron, have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to?
I'm still working on getting them myself, so I'll say no to that.
All right. Are you married?
I am not married.
Do you have children?
I do not have children.
Do you believe in God?
That's an interesting question. I'm curious about religion and God. Can I say that?
Hey, this is your answer, my friend. Do you have an inner circle of friends?
Yes.
Do you watch TV for more than 3 hours a day?
Probably.
All right. And what about 3 hours a week? Is that a better average?
I definitely watch 3 hours a week. I probably watched 3 hours today watching NFL Sunday.
Yeah, sports, right? Sports. All right. What about screen time? The phone and the computer, is it more than 8 or less than 8 hours a day?
Including schoolwork, it's probably over 8 hours a day spent in class on my computer, checking Twitter for the latest news. I probably spend, unfortunately, that's disgusting to say, but over 8 hours a day.
All right. Aaron, after 1,001 conversations in 3 months in 2016, thereafter I came up with a workbook, the name of it being called Yours. It stands for Your Own Unique Real Self. It's a reflective self-discovery workbook with questions similar to these, where the idea is you answer these questions and hopefully connect to your own unique real statement, which is your mission, right? If you had to share with us, Aaron, your own unique real statement, a statement that represents Aaron Rose, what would you say that is?
Wow. Aaron Rose, I think my statement is that you should relentlessly pursue whatever you want. I think I talked about that earlier, but reach out to people, go for something. I've always believed that if you don't try something, the answer is no if you don't go for it. So you might as well try and go for it, and it might be a yes. You can only change it to a yes if you go for it. It's a no if you don't do anything. Like Wayne Gretzky said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I think my mantra is very similar to that.
Love it. Aaron Rose, this was a great pleasure. Before you leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
Well, I want to say thank you to all the listeners, and thank you to you for having me on. This was a great experience. You are a wonderful podcaster, and I look forward to connecting again later on at some point.
Love it. Aaron Rose, thank you. And thank you for being on what is inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. Thank you for being on 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. Stay tuned for more from our advertisers.
Diabetes is a mountain pandemic. It's a disease that's not acute but chronic. Similar to this rhyming method, I have simplified the definition, the signs and symptoms, and the complications of diabetes for both adults and children in my books, Poems for Patients, A Focus on Diabetes, and The ABCs of Diabetes for Children. These books are available on Amazon.com, and for more information, you can visit my website, poemsbyaj.com. That's poemsbyaj.com.